here from Andrie Designs. I just thought I'd pop a quick little tutorial up today to show you how I like to create adjustable crossbody straps. So these have many different functions. The main purpose of an adjustable strap is that you can then decide how you want to wear the bag on any given day. So you might want to have it as a shoulder strap, in which case you'd shorten the strap up. Otherwise, another day you might decide you want to wear your bag crossbody, in which case you would lengthen the strap out. So cut sizes for the strap: for an adult length, I recommend starting with 60 inches. And for a child or teenager, I recommend starting at around 40 to 50 inches in length for your fabric. Throughout the tutorial, I am going to show you how to press and fold your fabric to get a really tidy parallel strap. And I'm also going to show you at the machine how to stitch both the slider and the swivel hooks in place so they're nice and secure, they look really good, have a really professional finish to them, and it means that you have a really nice, well-made crossbody strap at the end of it. So this strap is part of a poly crossbody pouch that I am working on, and I'll pop a link to that pattern in the description below. But for now, let's get started. So to create your adjustable crossbody strap, you're going to need a long length of fabric with interfacing already fused to the wrong side of it. You're going to need 2 swivel hooks and a slider. So to start, all we're going to do is press and fold our strap into a nice long completed length, just like you would for a normal strap or handle. So taking your fabric and placing it right side down on your pressing table, all we're going to do simply to start is we're going to fold it over wrong sides together, matching long raw edges, and we're going to give that a press all the way along this fold. So once we've created that first crease in our strap, what we're going to do is we're going to open our strap out, and we're going to fold each long raw edge into that center fold to create a nice finished folded edge. So to do that, what I like to do is take it one step further, and when I fold my long raw edge into that center fold, I then also refold that half of the strap back up, and I just use my fingers to push that raw edge down into the fold so it's a nice even fold and the strap is nice and equal as we go along. And then there's no hesitation that I know my raw edge is nicely slotted down into that initial fold we've made. And then from here, all we're going to do is simply turn our strap over, and we're going to fold that remaining long edge into the center fold just like we did. So we have 2 nicely folded edges along one side of our strap. So taking that long edge, folding it into the center, and as I like to do, refolding that strap, tucking that fabric down into the fold, and give it a good press. And make sure that these 2 folded edges meet nicely as we go along. So from here we're going to tidy up the short ends of our strap. So working on one end at a time, and I'm just going to get both ends here in front of me so it's not twisted. So working on one short end at a time, we're going to unfold our strap all the way, and we're essentially going to fold this raw end over 1/4 of an inch. Now you can measure it if you like, however I honestly just eyeball it. And we're going to press in the center 2 channels first. Give that a good press there. And then what I like to do on the outer 2 channels is, instead of just folding it over the same amount as the center 2, I actually like to taper the ends in ever so slightly. It's barely 1/16 of an inch, just so that when you refold the strap, those ends are nicely snuggled down just inside that folded edge, and they're a lot more discreet and they're not poking out. And I just feel it gives a much better finish. So I'm keeping that gap, that 1/4 inch that I've just made. I'm going to just fold this over 1/4 inch and then just pull it in ever so slightly. So there's a very subtle curve around the edge of that fabric. And press it, and I'm going to do the same on the other side here too. So there's the 1/4 inch, and then I'm just going to pull it ever so slightly over. So there's a very small curve, and give it a press. And while that cools down, I'm going to repeat that process for the other short end of our strap. And while that end cools down, I'm going to go back to the first end, and I'm going to refold it and give it a really good press. So to refold, we're going to tuck that end in. Just use your nail to really push the fabric into these channel folds so that it goes exactly where it's supposed to. And same on that bottom fold, and then in half again. And as you can see, the folded corners are just shy of the end. They're just snuggled down inside there, and it just gives, I find it just gives a tidier finish. And repeat that for the remaining short end of the strap as well. So once your strap is all pressed and all your raw edges are enclosed, pause the video, head over to your machine. You're going to top stitch around all edges of your strap using a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and a top stitching length of about 3 to 3.5 millimeters. Make sure to reinforce at the start and finish just to lock your threads in, and once you've top stitched your strap, pop back here and we will continue. So once you've top stitched around the edge of your strap, it should be looking something like this. So from here what we're going to do is we're going to prepare the ends. So placing your strap right side down, and if you prefer a side of the fabric, if you fussy cut your fabric to be one side is the right side and one side's not, or you may simply find that the top thread of your stitching is tidier than your bobbin thread. For whatever reason, if you have a preference as to which side is which, place your strap right side down. So I'm going to turn mine over so I'm looking at the side that my bobbin thread was on. And we're going to simply fold each short end over 1 inch and give it a good press to set that fold. So from here, before we go any further, it's a really good time to double check that your strap is not twisted and that you have folded your short ends over to the same side. So I'm just going to double check that now before we go and install the hardware. So I folded it over to this side, keeping it flat, not twisting it, and that's folded to the same side. That's good, so I'm happy with that. So working on one end at a time, what we're going to do at this first end is install our slider. So taking your slider, and it will be something that looks a bit like this with a center bar, all we're going to do simply is feed our fabric up one gap, over the center bar and down the other gap. We're going to straddle that center bar of the hardware in that fold we just made, and then from there what we're going to do is stitch this end down to secure our slider in place. Before stitching, I like to hold it in place, and I'm just going to use a little bit of tape Just has a little bit more strength than the glue. However, you could use a stronger sewing glue than the stick that I use. Pins or clips would work fine as well. I just find this quick and easy to do. So I'm just going to place a bit of tape across the end, just inside that 1/8 stitching that I made earlier. Folding the fabric back over at that fold we made, matching the side folded edges together. I'm just going to stick that short end down. So that's held in place, that is ready to stitch. So from here, come with me, I'm going to show you how to stitch this down to secure it at your machine. So I'll see you over there. So to secure the slider in place at your machine, you'll probably find it easiest to use your zipper foot. And if you are using your zipper foot, you need your needle all the way over to one side, and I prefer to stitch with it on the right hand side. You'll need a top stitching length of about 3 to 3.5 millimeters, and make sure your needle is set to the needle down position, just so that if and when you stop, your work is held in place. All we're going to do to secure the slider is stitch along that existing row of top stitching we just made. So I'm going to start right in the center, and thankfully this is quite a wide slider, and with my zipper foot it means that my needle will be stitching just on top of that original top stitching, so I don't have to adjust anything. However, if you find that because of your slider and just the size of your zipper foot you simply cannot get in enough to stitch on that stitching, all you need to do is make the fold of the fabric longer so that your short edge comes further down the strap and gives you more clearance to stitch it in place. So starting in the center, all we're going to do is make one stitch forward and back to lock our threads in, and then we're just going to stitch all the way to this closest folded edge, directly on top of that top stitching we made earlier, nice and slow and steady. When we get there, we're going to lock reverse on, and we're going to reverse all the way back to the far folded edge, again directly on top of that top stitching, and nice and slow and steady. When we get there, take reverse off, stitch back to the center to where we started, and make 2 to 3 reinforcing stitches to really lock those threads in, and then we can lift it out, and that is stitching our slider in place. So that's nice and easy, nice and tidy. So from here, come with me, we'll head back to our workstation and we will continue. So the next part of creating our crossbody strap is to install the 2 swivel hooks. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take the end of the strap that has the slider attached, and we're going to place it right side down so that we're looking at the wrong side of the strap where the fold of the fabric is and the back essentially of that slider. From here, we're going to work our way along the strap to the other short end, which is where we've got a nice little fold, and we're going to feed one of our swivel hooks onto that fold, making sure that the swivel hook is face down, or the hook essentially is underneath, so the hook is on the right side of the strap and we're looking at the bottom bar of the hook. From there, we're just going to place it, I just like to place it about halfway along the strap just so it's not at either end. And then what we're going to do is take that remaining short end of the strap, we're going to fold the strap in half so it is essentially wrong sides together. We have our hook poking out one halfway point, I suppose you'd say, and then just moving this along so you can see what I'm doing, we're going to feed the short end, the remaining end of our strap up and through our slider. So keeping your fabric essentially right sides together, making sure there's no twists as you go and that the swivel hook is facing out so it can be used. We're going to take that remaining end, we're going to feed it up the closest side of the slider, over the center bar, just like we did when we attached the slider to the other end of the strap, and down the other gap. And we're going to pull that a fair way through so that it is away from this short end, which we're going to finish off shortly with our remaining hook. So our slider is, as the name suggests, able to slide. We have the other end of the strap attached to it, and if you look side on, you will see that the remaining short end of the strap is nicely snuggled between the 2 layers of the strap. It's not underneath, it's not visible, it's nicely and discreetly hidden. So now that we have one slider attached and one swivel hook, all that's left to do is attach the remaining swivel hook to the remaining short end of the strap. So to do that, we're simply going to place it on the strap We're looking at the right side of the strap, just like the right side of the slider. So we're going to have our hook facing up and also on the right side. We're going to fold that short fold under, just like how we creased it earlier. And I'm just going to place a bit of tape there to hold it down prior to stitching. So folding it over, matching up folded edges, making sure that swivel hook, is sitting right in the fold of the fabric we made earlier, and just give it a bit of a squeeze to join those together. And then from here, all we're going to do to attach is again stitch directly over top of that 1/8 of an inch row of stitching we made earlier, from side to side, reinforcing 2 to 3 times, and that will be our strap complete. So from here, pause the video, head back to your machine, stitch across this final short end of the strap to secure, and once you've done that, pop back here and we will continue. So once you've stitched your remaining swivel hook in place, this is what it should be looking like. So from here, our crossbody strap is complete. And that's all there is to it. You now have a perfectly made, beautiful adjustable crossbody strap ready to attach to your next bag. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and I hope you've learned a few little tips and tricks as well. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, or feel free to contact me via the contact page of my website, or alternatively, feel free to post in our patterns group on Facebook, and I'll pop a link to that group in the description below as well. Until next time, happy sewing!